Don't you dare. You are not going to deny me this opportunity, I said, my voice rising as I stood frozen in the doorway of Thomas Miller's office. The department head slowly lifted his gaze from behind his desk. A satisfied smile spread across his face, the kind that made my stomach tighten instantly. After a decade of loyalty and hard work at Peterson Engineering, this was how it ended. My name is Kay Thompson, and at 52, I had spent the last 10 years of my career at one of San Francisco's most respected engineering firms. I had survived 3 company restructurings, 2 major economic downturns, and more late nights than I could count, perfecting designs and solving problems no one else wanted to touch. I believed I had proven my value. Apparently, I was wrong. Kay, please sit down, Thomas said, gesturing toward the chair across from him. His voice carried that polished, artificial compassion that management training drills into executives. We've decided to bring in someone younger for your position. After 10 years, it's time for you to move on. The words settled heavily between us. Someone younger. Not more qualified. Not more experienced. Just younger. I felt a familiar rush of anger rise in my chest, but I forced myself to breathe. This wasn't the moment for emotion. I straightened my posture and nodded calmly. I appreciate the notice, Thomas. My measured response clearly caught him off guard. He blinked, momentarily losing his place in the conversation. Well, good, he said, recovering quickly. I'm glad you understand. The transition will happen over the next month. We'll need you to train your replacement. Her name is Olivia. She graduates from Berkeley next week. I offered a thin, polite smile. Of course. What Thomas didn't know, what no one in the department knew, was that the upcoming board meeting would be special. Very special. Will there be a formal announcement? I asked, keeping my tone steady. We'll make it official at Monday's department meeting, Thomas replied, already turning back to his computer screen. HR will contact you regarding your severance package. I stood, smoothing the front of my blazer. I see. And the quarterly board meeting is still next Thursday at 2 p.m., correct? Thomas looked up, confusion briefly flashing across his face. Yes, but that's no longer something you need to worry about. I was just confirming my calendar, I said lightly. Will CEO Davis be attending? His eyes narrowed slightly. Why do you ask? Just curious, I replied with a shrug. I won't take up any more of your time. As I left his office, an unexpected calm settled over me. 10 years at Peterson Engineering had taught me patience, resilience, and the value of silence. The next board meeting would bring everything into the open, and Thomas Miller's smug confidence would vanish faster than the morning fog rolling across the bay. Some secrets were worth holding on to, even when you were being shown the door. Walking back to my desk, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. 10 years of dedication reduced to a casual dismissal in a 15-minute conversation. And yet, I was carrying information that would turn everything upside down. Everything okay? Javier asked from the neighboring cubicle. His concern was genuine. He had watched too many people walk out of Thomas's office looking stunned and defeated. Never better, I replied quietly. Just another Friday drama. I hadn't told anyone about the private meeting with CEO Catherine Davis 3 weeks earlier. The call had come unexpectedly on a Sunday afternoon, straight to my personal phone, while I was tending to my rooftop garden. Kay, we need to talk about your future at Peterson, Catherine said. Her voice, usually formal, sounded relaxed and direct. Not at the office. Can you meet me at Bayview Cafe tomorrow at 7 a.m.? That morning remained vivid in my mind. Catherine had arrived early, securing a corner table overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, partially hidden by morning mist. I'll get straight to the point, she said after we exchanged brief pleasantries. The board is restructuring our leadership strategy. We've been closely watching your work on the Westlake project. Your solution saved us millions and impressed our most demanding clients. I had been bracing for criticism, not praise. Thank you, I said cautiously. We want you on the executive board, Catherine continued. As our new chief operations officer, you understand both the technical side and the human side of this business in a way very few people do. The offer left me stunned. A seat on the board? I asked. Yes, she confirmed. You'll oversee all operational divisions, including Thomas's department. Why me? I asked, still trying to process the weight of it all. Because you notice what others overlook, Catherine replied. And because it's time someone at the table remembers what it's like to work in the trenches. The secrecy had been her idea. The board vote is a formality, she explained, but we need to manage internal politics carefully. Some members, especially those tied to Thomas, could interfere if they knew too soon. I signed the contract with only Catherine and the company's legal counsel present. For the next 3 weeks, I attended early morning strategy meetings disguised as vendor appointments on my calendar. I reviewed confidential documents after hours and helped design a new operational framework, all while Thomas quietly planned my exit. Back at my desk, my phone buzzed. A message from Catherine. Contracts filed. Announcement prepared. Still on for Thursday. I replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. The rest of the afternoon, I worked methodically on transition notes for my replacement. Thomas passed by twice, clearly pleased with himself. Let him enjoy his moment. The real revelation was coming. The weekend crawled by as I prepared for what would become the most important week of my career. Monday morning, I arrived early, dressed exactly as I always had. Nothing about my appearance hinted at the shift about to happen. The department meeting began at 10 a.m. in the main conference room. I took my usual seat, visible but not central. The room buzzed with conversation about deadlines, weekend plans, and industry rumors. Thomas entered last, followed by a young woman I didn't recognize. She couldn't have been older than 23. Her nervous smile and wide eyes gave away her excitement. "Good morning, everyone," Thomas announced, clapping his hands. "Before we begin project updates, I have an important announcement." The room fell silent. "I'd like to introduce Olivia Parker," he continued. "She'll be joining us as senior design engineer over the next month. She'll be working closely with Kay, who will be leaving us to pursue other opportunities." There it was, the polite corporate phrasing for being pushed out. I kept my expression neutral as eyes turned toward me. "Kay has been with us for 10 years, Thomas added, as if doing me a favor by acknowledging it. "We appreciate her contributions. Please help Olivia feel welcome as she transitions into this role." Olivia gave a small wave. "I'm really excited to be here. I've heard great things about Peterson Engineering." The meeting continued. I participated as usual, offering feedback, solving issues, and volunteering help. Thomas watched me closely, perhaps waiting for emotion that never came. Afterward, Olivia approached me hesitantly. "Ms. Thompson, Thomas said you'd be helping me get settled this week." "Of course," I replied. "And please, call me Kay." As we walked to my desk, I felt a quiet sympathy for her. She was simply a piece in Thomas's game, unaware of the complexity she had stepped into. "The first thing you should know," I said once we sat down, "is that engineering at Peterson is just as much about politics as it is about skill." She looked surprised. "I thought it would be more merit-based." I smiled gently. "It should be. Maybe someday it will be again." The next 3 days passed in a blur of training sessions, project handoffs, and detailed documentation of my work. Through it all, I stayed calm, because I knew exactly what Thursday would bring. I kept my professional composure, making sure Olivia received every advantage I could give her, all without revealing my real situation. On Wednesday afternoon, Catherine announced a company-wide meeting scheduled for Friday morning, the day after the board meeting. The email referenced exciting organizational changes and new leadership announcements. Thomas read the message with a noticeable frown. It was obvious he hadn't been included in whatever Catherine had planned. "Do you have any idea what this is about?" he asked casually as he passed my desk. "No idea," I replied smoothly. "Maybe they finally filled that VP role that's been sitting vacant." He nodded, apparently satisfied with my lack of insight, and continued down the hallway. Thursday was closing in fast, bringing with it the moment of truth. When Thursday morning arrived, I felt an unexpected sense of calm. I had prepared for this day carefully, right down to my outfit. I wore a tailored charcoal suit I had purchased specifically for this occasion, paired with a subtle jade silk blouse that highlighted the green in my eyes. It was polished and executive, yet still entirely consistent with how I'd always presented myself. When I arrived, my farewell gathering was already underway. A small table in the break room held supermarket cupcakes and lukewarm coffee. A card sat nearby, signed with polite messages and shared memories from projects we'd worked on together. I accepted their kind words with grace, fully aware I was playing my role in this familiar corporate ritual. "We'll miss you around here," Javier said, giving me an awkward side hug. "It won't be the same without your problem-solving magic." "Thank you," I said honestly. Many of these people were genuine colleagues who had no role in Thomas's maneuvering. "I'll miss this team too." Thomas lingered at the edge of the gathering, checking his watch repeatedly. The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m., and as department head, he needed to prepare his quarterly presentation. I knew exactly what was in it. I had helped design the reporting structure years earlier. "Kay, could I see you in my office when you're finished here?" he said, already turning away before I could respond. 15 minutes later, I sat across from him as he shuffled papers across his desk. "I want to thank you for handling this transition so professionally," he said, without looking up. "It's refreshing, considering your tenure with the company." The slight emphasis on tenure made his meaning clear. "It seemed like the appropriate approach," I replied evenly. He finally met my eyes. "Your severance package is generous. 2 months' salary plus unused vacation time. The paperwork will be ready for your signature tomorrow." "I appreciate that." He leaned back in his chair, curiosity finally overtaking his guarded tone. "I have to ask, you've been remarkably calm through all of this. Did you see it coming?" I allowed myself a small, unreadable smile. "Let's just say I've learned to plan for all contingencies during my time here." His expression tightened slightly. "Companies evolve. Fresh perspectives become necessary. I'm sure you understand." "I do," I said. "Change is inevitable in any organization. Sometimes it comes from unexpected directions." He studied me closely, unsettled by my response. Before he could press further, his phone buzzed with a reminder. "I need to prepare for the board meeting." "Of course," I said, standing. "Good luck with your presentation. I've always found the board very attentive to detail." As I left, I could feel his gaze following me, uncertainty now replacing his earlier confidence. My calm had planted doubt exactly where I wanted it. Back at my desk, my phone buzzed again. A message from Catherine. "Conference room A, 1:30. Use the executive entrance." For the next 2 hours, I carefully organized my desk, backed up personal files, and prepared detailed handover notes for Olivia. To anyone watching, I was simply being thorough before my departure. At 1:45, I picked up my leather portfolio and headed toward the restroom, an entirely normal move that raised no suspicion. Once out of view of the engineering floor, I changed direction and took the elevator to the top floor, where the senior executives' offices were located. The executive suite had its own private entrance to the boardroom, a door I had never once used in my 10 years at the company, until today. Catherine was waiting in the hallway. Her usually composed expression softened with anticipation. "Ready to make history?" she asked quietly. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. "As ready as I'll ever be." "Perfect," she said, checking her watch. "The other board members are already seated. Thomas will enter through the main door at exactly 2 p.m. Let's get into position." Together, we walked toward the executive entrance to Conference Room A. The boardroom at Peterson Engineering radiated authority and tradition. 12 high-backed leather chairs surrounded a massive mahogany table that had borne witness to decades of pivotal decisions. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a sweeping view of San Francisco's skyline, a constant reminder of how far the company had risen. By 1:45 p.m., 10 board members were already seated, engaged in quiet conversation. Catherine nodded subtly toward an empty chair at her right, my assigned seat. A brief flutter of nerves passed through me as I sat down, quickly replaced by steady confidence as several board members smiled in recognition. William Harrison, the 70-year-old chairman, extended his hand. "Miss Thompson, we're pleased to finally welcome you officially. Catherine has spoken highly of your operational insight." "Thank you, Mr. Harrison," I replied. "I appreciate the opportunity." Over the next 10 minutes, I was introduced to each board member. Many recognized me from past presentations or project briefings, but this interaction felt different. I wasn't reporting upward anymore. I was their peer. At precisely 2 p.m., the main door opened. Thomas entered confidently, presentation materials tucked under his arm. He greeted several board members by name as he moved around the table, placing copies of his report at each seat. Then his eyes landed on me. The shift in his expression was unmistakable. Confusion giving way to disbelief, then quickly to alarm. "Kay, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice rising slightly. Before I could answer, Catherine stood, commanding the room's attention. "Let's begin," she said. "Please take your seats." Thomas remained standing, his gaze flicking between Catherine and me as he tried to make sense of the situation. "Please sit down, Thomas," Catherine instructed calmly, waiting until he did before continuing. "As you're all aware," she began, "Peterson Engineering has been undergoing strategic restructuring to position ourselves for future challenges. After extensive evaluation, the executive committee identified several operational areas in need of improvement." Thomas fidgeted with his pen, no longer looking in my direction. "To lead this effort," Catherine continued, "we needed someone with deep institutional knowledge, proven technical expertise, and the ability to unite divisions across the company." She paused. "I'm pleased to announce that Kay Thompson has accepted the role of Chief Operations Officer, effective immediately." Applause filled the room. Several board members nodded approvingly toward me. "As COO, Kay will oversee all operational functions," Catherine said. "This includes engineering, production, supply chain, and quality assurance. All department heads will report directly to her, allowing for faster and more effective decision-making." The color drained from Thomas's face. I wasn't aware of this reorganization," he stammered. "The decision was finalized 3 weeks ago," Catherine replied evenly, "on a need-to-know basis." William Harrison leaned forward. Miss Thompson's appointment was unanimously approved. Her first priority will be conducting a comprehensive review of all departments to identify inefficiencies and opportunities for growth. And just like that, everything had changed. I finally spoke, keeping my tone steady and professional. "I'm looking forward to working with all department heads to strengthen our operations," I said. "Everyone brings value to this organization. Sometimes it's simply a matter of placing that value in the right position." Thomas met my gaze. The message landed clearly. His department now reported to me, and his recent decision to replace me would fall under my review. Now, Catherine said smoothly, guiding the meeting forward, let's continue with the quarterly reports. Thomas, you're first. He rose on unsteady legs, fumbling slightly with his presentation materials. The confident department head who had dismissed me days earlier was gone. In his place stood a man quietly questioning every choice that had led him here. Before you begin, I said gently, I'd like to address the staffing changes you proposed earlier this week. It may be worth revisiting those decisions. The silence was immediate and heavy. Thomas cleared his throat, a bead of sweat forming at his temple. Perhaps we should discuss staffing after the meeting, he suggested, his voice tight. Actually, I replied calmly, since it directly impacts the quarterly projections you're about to present, it's best we address it now. I turned to the board. Thomas proposed replacing our senior design engineer, the role I held until today, with a recent graduate who has no industry experience. Several board members exchanged concerned looks. The Westlake project is entering its most critical phase, I continued. Introducing major personnel changes at this stage creates unnecessary risk to both timeline and budget. William Harrison frowned. Is this accurate, Thomas? The Westlake contract represents 20% of our annual revenue. Thomas's hands trembled slightly around his folder. I believed a fresh perspective would benefit the team, he said, though the words lacked conviction. But with the new structure, we can reassess. Indeed, I said. In fact, I've already spoken with Diana Ford about stepping into the role. Her 15 years of experience and familiarity with the Westlake specifications make her the logical choice. Catherine nodded. Diana is an excellent engineer. I fully support this decision. Defeat flickered across Thomas's face, but he continued with his report. His delivery was hesitant, peppered with pauses and frequent glances at his notes. When questions came, they were sharper and more critical than he was used to. As the meeting moved through other departmental updates, I took detailed notes and asked targeted questions that reflected my deep understanding of company operations. By the time we reached new business, the shift in room dynamics was unmistakable. More questions were directed to me than to Catherine or the department heads. Near the end, Catherine introduced another agenda item. As part of our restructuring, she said, we'll be reviewing departmental age demographics and succession planning. Recent data shows our most innovative solutions come from cross-generational collaboration. A slide appeared, displaying productivity metrics across different age groups. As you can see, Catherine continued, teams with age diversity consistently outperform those that are homogeneous. Kay will lead an initiative to ensure healthy age distribution throughout the organization. I met Thomas's eyes across the table. Experience and fresh perspectives both matter, I said evenly. When integrated properly, they strengthen teams. I look forward to working with each department head to optimize team composition. The meeting adjourned at 4:30 p.m.